Now call the meeting to order. This is a meeting of the Devens Jurisdiction Framework Committee. Today is February 12th, 2025. My name is Victor Norman. I will be the chair of this meeting. Those of you zooming in, if you will unmute yourselves, I'll now call the roll. Janice Livingston.
Here.
Robert Puntbrand.
Here.
Rich Maori. Dan Nason.
Here.
Brian Sawyer.
Here.
Logan Breeze.
Here.
Ryan Hildebrand.
Here.
Bill Marshall.
Here.
Neil Angus. John Ketter. Odile Smith. Ryan McDivitt. Kristen Cullen.
Ryan had said he wasn't going to be able to make it.
Correct.
Here.
Okay. Who just said here?
Kristen.
Kristen.
Yeah.
Welcome. We have a majority. We are in order. First order of business, we have minutes from our meeting of January 8th.
Yeah.
Any comments?
Should click on it.
Corrections?
I was here for that.
Okay, I'll accept a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
Robert, is there a second?
Seconded.
Janice? All those in favor of accepting the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. Without objection, the minutes are approved unanimously. Is there a little feedback there?
I think somebody, if you all could mute yourselves until you want to speak, thank you. I don't want to do it because I messed it up the
Okay,
last time.
stakeholder reports, Town of Air.
Mr. Chairman, good afternoon. The Town of Air's local committee continues to meet. Their next meeting is next week, where they'll be meeting with the superintendent of schools of the Air Shirley Regional School District, sort of focusing on the education dimension from the air perspective on Devens. So our group continues to meet on that level. And I think that's what we have right now.
Okay, very good. Town of Harvard, we actually had two meetings since the last meeting of this framework committee. At a regular meeting, we discussed the framework submission on environmental issues, and I gave the committee an update on both the housing working group meeting that I attended as a guest and the last meeting of this committee. The second meeting we had was with Senator Eldridge, as we have done periodically. I took the opportunity at that meeting to give the senator a heads up that as the framework committee moves forward with the development of our RFP, we anticipate needing the cooperation of Mass Development, and since he was instrumental in getting those funds to the framework committee, he's very interested in Mass Development fully cooperating with us. So that was good to hear. And also with respect to the work of the framework committee, the issue of moving forward within the four corners of Chapter 498 is something that the senator appreciates and supports as well, particularly obviously with reference to any zone changes that will be required based on the work of the framework committee. I'm sorry, of the working group committee. The Town of Shirley.
There are no significant updates since our last meeting.
Okay. Devens. Jim?
Nothing of note to report.
Okay. Devens Enterprise Commission. Neil or Bill?
Just a couple of things. I believe between last meeting and this one, we came to the Town of Air and presented to the Air Jurisdictional Committee just to kind of go over what Devens is all about. That was between the last meeting and this one, right?
Yeah, you came to the Air local committee, which was very good.
Right, right. Plans to come to the planning board in the near future as well, too, to talk about all things Devens. We've also, the commission did approve the environmental matrix portion, and we've done a few presentations to surrounding Rotary groups. The Air Devens Shirley Rotary, as well as the Westboro Rotary, on Devens in general, and disposition is one of those topics that we've been kind of just educating people about. Other than that, just regular business.
Okay, very good. Okay, moving right along under old business, DJFC working group update. Robert?
You want me to give the report for the?
The RFP
Yeah.
working group.
Yep, sure. So we met yesterday to work on the RFP, and just for the committee's benefit, that subgroup has Jim Geller, Victor, myself, Mr. Nason, and Mr. Sawyer, and Mr. Catter. We are making progress on that front. We are in the process of taking the original RFEI and tailoring it to become an RFP specifically for this piece of the project. Because if you recall, the RFEI looked at the whole thing. We're designing it to look at as much as we can do given the grant funding. So we have one more meeting in 2 weeks. We're going to meet, and then our goal is to come back here with a draft for your consideration and input on that. So a lot of progress on that front. Related to that, which I had hoped to have for this meeting, is the grant is now open and available for contracting. The only issue is we haven't received the contracting documents from the state. I talked to them 2 days ago, was hoping to have them for today, but there tends to be a delay. As soon as I get the contracting documents, I'll get that to everybody. And as we structured it, the town of Air is just the administrative host of the grant, just to stress that. All of the decisions and with the grant rests with the framework committee, but we're just sort of the point of contact. So from my perspective, Mr. Chair, I think that we're rapidly moving in good shape for the RFP and to get this going. And Neil, you were on there. I'm sorry, I forgot to mention. Did I miss anything? I think that.
I don't think so. Neil or Jim, anything additional?
That's a fair summary.
Okay, good. Next item on our agenda is Healy Driscoll Housing Economic Development Group, Housing Economic Development
Bill.
Economic Bill Working Group update. So Brian, I think you're on
Correct, yes.
that committee, as is Neil. So do you mind giving us a report of what occurred at their initial meeting?
A little bit more well-spoken than I. So. Well, thank you. I appreciate it. So the working group convened. It was an open meeting. Wasn't a Zoom contact meeting, but the public was allowed to speak. It was a very interactive session. I think there was a lot of great questions from the public. Secretary Howe ran the meeting, introduced everybody on the working group, and really took the takeaway from the meeting, from the discussion between the representatives and the public, was that there was 3 key buckets or issues, and basically she set up 3 separate sub-working groups. One being the Devens fundamentals, which is kind of the baseline information, the existing rules and regulations, kind of setting the stage for what this working group has to deal with. I have been tasked with leading that group. So I've been meeting with several individuals from both the Devens side, from the business side, from historic side, because this whole district encompasses a lot of overlays, including historic, water resources protection. So I'm meeting with these folks, gathering all that information to present at the next meeting, which will be February 25th at Devens again. Other 2 groups that were created was community considerations. So they're looking at the impact and opportunities for Devens and the surrounding communities. That group's being led by Laura Scott, Susan Mary Redinger from Harvard, Laura Scott's from Devens, Brian Hildebrandt from Shirley, and Sean Copeland from Air. So there's regional representation on that group to look at community considerations. And the third group is being led by Chris Clutchman from the Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities. She and Meg Delorier from Mass Development are spearheading the innovation in development and sustainable housing. So through the discussion, it came out, 400 units, what would that look like? People were talking about innovative approaches to housing, so not just single family homes, but looking at multifamily, smaller, compact, more affordable housing styles. So this third group will be tasked with looking at innovative approaches to housing development. All because we only have till May 19th to figure all this out. That's 4 working group meetings if we met once a month. These subgroups will meet individually and do a lot of the legwork in between the meetings and report back to the full committee at the following meetings. So as I said, the next meeting is February 25th, where those 3 sub-working groups will report back to the full agency, and then I would assume they'll look at next steps.
Okay.
That was very well done.
Thank you.
Are you sure, Brian? You want to add anything?
Sure, first off, if I jumped in first, it would have been a lot shorter than that, so I.
Well, I'm sorry.
I'll keep that in.
It's great.
I'll keep that in mind for next time.
Yes, I'm definitely the short but sweet
Good.
type of person when I speak, but from a community impact standpoint, all 4 of us have been having like schedule conflicts here and there, but we have a meeting on the 24th to kind of discuss and combine all of our impacts and opportunities for each town. We plan on reaching out to Brian as well prior to that meeting to have a discussion about that. And as he said, the next meeting's on the 25th, and we're getting together on the 24th and go from there. So,
good.
It's an interesting meeting. So.
Okay. So the only thing I can add is I attended the meeting, and I did ask make a request at the very end of the meeting. And what I requested was that Mass Development come forward with their plans for the land that's now zoned housing and not under the purview of the Housing Working Group. And my reason for asking that if the Housing Working Group is going to make decisions on types of housing and so on, that they ought to know what's going on around them. So that there's no duplication of effort or nothing is missed. So the CEO of Mass Development indicated that she would bring something forward at the next meeting. So that will be good, and that will be informative for us as well. So okay, any questions, comments? All right. Next item is invitation to Mass Development CEO. I also, after the meeting, I went up to Najit Ball, the new CEO at Mass Development, and reminded her that we were looking for a response to our request to participate in this meeting, and told her personally she had an open invitation to come anytime, and that's as far as it went. So the question to this committee is there anything else that we should be doing at this point in time?
With respect to her and an invitation?
Yeah, getting Mass Development to the table. I mean, that's an ongoing issue that we have.
If I may, Mr. Chair, and I think when we met yesterday, the subcommittee, you may have brought this up. Perhaps as we're getting close to the Framework Committee issuing the RFP, at that point would also be another opportunity, I think you mentioned, to hopefully engage Mass Development and engage her. In other words, we're about to put this RFP out. It's going to involve information at a minimum from Mass Development. That might just be another opportunity to try to get them to the table. Just a thought. And we're not quite there yet, but I think in the next few weeks, when the RFP is ready.
Okay, What do others think about that? I think it's a good opportunity to, okay. Very good.
Mr. Chair, would it be easier for her attendance if we held a meeting at Devens? Is that a possibility? I'm just not sure about her
Well,
accessibility. You know, what I mean, it's just randomly. That's all. I'm just making a
well, through the
suggestion.
chair, I mean, I'm certainly not opposed to that, okay? But, the last time we had a meeting at Mass Development with the leader, it was kind of a closed door and didn't go well, and we haven't seen him since. So that's my only concern,
No,
is
I-
that if we do it over there, it's not necessarily open. However, if that's the only way we can get a face-to-face, we
Well,
do
I
it.
just through the
Yeah.
chair, I just thought I wasn't sure if it'd be easier for because due to her
Yeah.
schedule.
Yeah.
I know we're all tight schedules, but I wasn't sure if that just might make it easier for her. I mean, I would just say that the last time we talked to the CEO was Dan O'Connell. He actually came to our meeting, so I don't think that would be an issue. It wasn't a closed door meeting.
Well, I was thinking, because I forgot about that person,
Yeah.
the interim guy.
The interim,
I forgot about that
Dan
person.
O'Connell and Meg the Warrior both came to
Yeah.
this meeting. So I think, Navjeet's offices are in Boston, but they have an office out here too, so I don't think would be that difficult for them to get down here, so. But if you want to host the meeting at Devens as well too, we're happy to host, but I don't think it's absolutely necessary.
Yeah.
Neil is able to find his way to air, so I don't expect.
Usually a few minutes late, but I still find my way. Yeah.
When
I love the time he said, I'm on my way, and then he walked in the door and
Right.
scared the crap out of us.
Yeah, when Mass Development was regularly attending, of the 3 participants, 2 came out of the Boston office and 1 came out of Lowell, so. But if that's an impediment, I'm sure we could accommodate, so. Okay, next item is public comment on the agenda.
No. No, you've skipped new business.
You're right.
The heck is this? Oh, yeah, okay. For a
did.
second there, I
New
thought
business
I thought I wrote it wrong. I was like,
Now,
what in the world?
Environmental issues was the topic for our framework matrix. So first up is the town of Air.
All right, so, Mr. Chairman, from the town of Air on environmental issues, just to frame how they're handled now on the municipal level, which I think is probably similar to Shirley and Harvard structurally. We have a 5-member conservation commission that's appointed by the select board, and we have 1 full-time conservation agent. Additionally, the town stormwater is managed by the DPW and will be funded by a newly formed stormwater enterprise fund that'll be going into effect on July 1st. So that's sort of our local level on resources on the environmental front. And as we put here, if the historic lands of Air on Devens were to come back under our jurisdiction, the town would first be interested in conducting the appropriate professional survey, analysis, study of all lands to fully understand any potential environmental issues, as well as to ascertain the responsible parties in the instances of contamination or ongoing remediation. We would also conceptually would require the appropriate agreements with appropriate entities regarding any contamination or environmental remediation efforts or ongoing monitoring. And a note, as I'm sure is the case with our other partner towns, the town of Air, we do have very strong relationships with DEP, the EPA, US Army, Mass Development, and would work closely with them to develop and implement the appropriate plans. And based on all of that, the town would need to consider, or would consider, increasing its environmental conservation resources accordingly, depending on that. So sort of just a very high-level snapshot on the environmental from Air's perspective.
Okay. Any questions? Air? Okay. Devens, Jim?
Very simply, we're acknowledging the continuation of the work that the military is doing to clean up Devens. Secondly, the continuation of the deck with respect to the typical environmental activities that would normally happen. And then ultimately, there would be a transition, but that would be sometime down the road.
Okay. Questions for Jim? Town of Shirley.
Yes, very similar to the town of Air. Currently, we have a conservation commission that is appointed by the select board and administered through the conservation agent that oversees our environmental needs within town. If we were to assume the historic lands of Shirley on Devens, basically we would have to reach out and identify kind of who would be responsible for any remediation that would have to occur and to what level. Once we have that understanding, we would develop agreements with the appropriate parties and go from there. So.
Okay. Questions for Shirley? All right. Town of Harvard. I think in two buckets, just as the Air and Harvard, Air and Shirley have expressed, the local practice of enforcing environmental regulations, the Wetlands Protection Act, for instance, and further, should any other regulations be promulgated by the Department of Environmental Protection, where there is local discretion, then Harvard working through its, coordinating with the Select Board and the Conservation Commission, and working with, as Harvard envisions the deck remaining in place as having environmental conservation issues with respect to Devens, to come up with a uniform modification of regulations where discretion is allowed locally. And then with respect to the ongoing work of the Army and mass development on Devens itself, what we've suggested, at least initially, is that it would be the Select Board in Harvard that would be the primary contact person to work with Mass DEP, the Army, Mass Development, and DEP on the ongoing environmental remediation efforts. And that's it for Harvard. Finally,
So, Victor, I have just a question. You state that the town of Harvard will rely on the Devens Enterprise Commission.
well,
Does that mean that Harvard anticipates keeping some form of the Devens Enterprise Commission in place as part of disposition?
Yes, I think so. I think that is the expectation. That the unified permitting process and that is in place. I think at least initially, I don't anticipate that there would be any major changes to the DEC's role as it functions in unified permitting. It brings in all the aspects of the Zoning Board of Appeals, Conservation Commission, and so on. So I think in order not to interfere with this unified permitting that will be in place at Devens, it just seems logical that the DEC would still be the responsible party for those things.
Okay.
Do you see an issue with that?
No, I always saw like the idea that Harvard wanted to maintain, and I think every jurisdiction wants to maintain this unified permitting system, but it's not clear how that would work. And I think this is the first time I've heard that the Devens Enterprise Commission would remain in place under a scenario where Harvard takes over jurisdiction of their
Yeah, how would that
lands.
work?
Yeah, I think the only change that would substantial change would be that as members of the commission's terms expired, that they'd be replaced by local.
Oh, okay.
There'd be local representation on
That
Enterprise
makes sense.
Commission. That,
So as they're phased out, as far as how they're run currently, you would phase it in to be a local.
yeah,
board.
right now you have members on the Enterprise Commission from the 3 towns
Right.
3 towns and the region.
and the region, and I think that what Harvard envisions during disposition is that in order to ensure continuity with the deck, as commission members' terms expire, if they would be replaced by somebody local. And then, how it gets divided up among the towns, I mean, that is, an issue to be worked out at some future.
Right. Okay, thanks for the clarification.
Okay. Okay, environmental issues. As always, the deck has provided a very useful and comprehensive document with respect to its contributions to the matrix framework. So, Neil?
Again, I may have elaborated a little too long on this, but better more than less. This is reflecting, the complication of the existing situation, the complexity of the existing situation. So, everybody knows Devens is a Superfund site. The coordination and collaboration between the Army, the DEP, the EPA, Mass Development, and the DEC is critical for how future development happens, how cleanup happens. So that's the one major issue. There is a restoration advisory board that the Army leads. Where all these agencies are part of that. If I would envision if the towns were to take over certain jurisdiction, that they would become part of this group as well too. There are members from the surrounding towns on the RAB currently. We do have a soil management policy that we administer as well to ensure that contaminated soils or UXO, unexploded ordnance, don't leave Devens. There are a number of sites with institutional controls, former contaminated sites, to reduce the amount of potential exposure to contamination, so those have to be considered. I've included a link to the summary of cleanup activities that have happened to date, just for informational purposes. From a water quality standpoint, Devens Utilities has upgraded all the treatment systems to deal with PFAS, but we also deal with Mass DEP as all our drinking water comes from groundwater source wells. So there is contact with the DEP for drinking water standards and permitting as well through the DEP for those water sources. And then lastly, the final environment from the other environmental aspects besides the cleanup. The final environmental impact report for Devens establishes a bunch of thresholds that need to be met. The commercial square footage cap has been eliminated, but there's all these other thresholds that have to be considered as well. Those have to be, those are currently, reviewed and regulated by the DEC and Mass Development. So consideration of those is something that the towns need to think about as well too. The DEC is the Conservation Commission, so we developed an open space and rec plan, implementation of that open space plan. We act as the Wetlands and Watercourses Agency, the Conservation Commission, so enforcing Wetland Protection Act, vernal pools, and the like. We have a steep slope overlay district as well as water resource protection overlay districts, so enforcement of those is important as well. And something else a little different than other towns, we do regulate greenhouse gas emission reduction strategies as well. We have requirements for increased building efficiency, building energy efficiency, operations and waste reduction programs, low impact development. In addition to that, another climate action issue that we deal with as well too, we do have a climate action plan that's being implemented to help meet some of those greenhouse gas emission reduction requirements. It's a lot, but I wanted to make sure everybody knows.
Okay.
It's beyond just the regular Conservation Commission duties of a town.
Jim?
Is it fair to say that you see mass development as having a continued role in the cleanup coordination post-jurisdiction?
I would think so, unless they,
Yeah, I know
have
you
an
can't
agreement
speak
with
for
the
them,
Army.
but
I
was
can't
just-
speak for mass
I was
development,
just thinking
but
from your perspective, does it make sense that they have a continuing role post-jurisdiction?
I mean, it will all depend on what transpires in terms of what the final disposition will be, but I imagine there would be some kind of transition period where they would stay involved. But again, I don't speak for mass development.
I understand, thanks.
So as I've done in the past, for the purpose of the matrix, could you provide a summary of this? Under 250 words is our policy.
I can. It's 527 words, so I'll split it in half.
Okay, good enough. Now that's.
But again, it's important information that I think, the whole purpose behind this is providing documentation for a future consultant or somebody to pick up and run with.
Right.
So, providing additional information I don't think is hurtful.
No, it isn't, and we'll include all this on.
I believe I
on the
still
website.
have, even when he gave the update on the unified permitting, and we can check right now to see if what I'm about to say is
Pages of
correct.
that.
I believe that here's the original. So there's the 250 word version, and there's the whole big one that he gave us. So that if somebody's on our website and they pull it up, they're getting everything.
Okay.
Because I agree that though I understand why you're going to want that 250 word, something like this, especially with environmental issues and whatnot, really important that I think that it was a good idea. So if you want to summarize it, I'll include it with what gets posted.
Yeah, and I think that the matrix, we're going to be able to create a document where people can get the short version of where everybody stands on everybody's issue, and then I think the additional information, if somebody wants a deep dive into the environmental issues, they'll have this as well. And this gives me an opportunity to just mention that Janice has done an excellent job of keeping up our website, and all the documents that are submitted here are well organized on the website. So if someone wants to go back and see positions that we've taken, or if someone's just curious of where we're at, it's all there.
Thank you, Janice.
Yes, it's a yeoman's effort to keep it all together, but there it is. Jim?
Mr. Chairman, I just would like to comment that I think that the information that the deck is providing us is terribly important. And I don't care if they stay in the 250 word or not,
Yeah.
because quite frankly, that information is very, very important background information, and it shouldn't be hidden. It needs to be upfront. So keep the Devens residents, keep the towns to 250 words, but the information the deck is providing is too important to shortchange.
When the committee met to set up this whole matrix, it agreed that the 250 word limit was what we wanted. And despite that limitation, which indirectly this committee approved, it's never stopped the deck in the past from submitting everything they thought should be submitted, and encourage you to do that going forward.
Yep, happy to provide us a brief summary,
Yeah.
as long as everything else contains.
Yep. The input from
accessible.
Devens, and also the Devens community too. They have offered and continue to offer insights into Devens that people in the towns may not know or be aware of. So that's also a very good contribution. So we've reached the end of that, and next time it is military affairs. And that, I suspect, is a topic that the towns may not fully be aware of what is involved in military affairs, particularly Harvard, because historically Harvard has not had involvement with the military community on Devens as Air and Shirley have had, and clearly doesn't have the insights that the DEC and Devens residents have.
So
Janice?
are you,
Go ahead.
are you looking for, like, as far as military issues, the fact that the military is still there, the fact that we still have to ask military, like, hey, clean your mess up, we need money for the mess, or anything like that? Is that what?
Well, I think the big issue that will be informative to a lot of people is that there is a significant military presence on Devens, and it will remain there. And the Army is quick to point out that Fort Devens is still Fort Devens.
Yes.
That they've been realigned, as they say, but it still has a major role and a major presence there. So I think that's, in my view, I think that's what we're looking for now is, what is the military footprint on Devens right now, and what's involved in the interaction between the military and the Devens community and the DEC. Neil?
Mr. Chair, I wonder, there are federal Department of Defense uses on Devens as well as state Army National Guard facilities on Devens. There are other federal uses as well too, Shriver Job Corps, Federal Bureau of Prisons. I wonder if, I don't know if other federal properties has been included in this matrix discussion. If it hasn't, maybe we want to change this one to military and federal uses.
Okay, that's a good call. Do we want to change this category from military affairs to government affairs, or?
I like what, through the chair, I like what Neil said, military affairs and federal uses.
Okay.
Yeah, I
Because
think that covers
encompasses
everything.
a lot more. Yeah.
Because military is a big part and an important part, but the other federal uses shouldn't be ignored either.
Very good point.
Okay, so we're gonna include military and federal for this one, okay.
And National Guard would fall under military affairs?
Military,
Okay.
state and federal.
Other federal uses. Okay, so that's it. That's the assignment for next time. Now, public comment?
Yes, now you can have it.
Any comments from the public? You sure, identify yourself and.
Bill Dustin from Devens.
Yep.
When the air was giving their report, I was reminded of all the resources that are in the local area that aren't governmental. Talking about PACE, which is People of Air Concerned in the Environment, a very active organization that oversees a lot of what the RAB does. Also would be a great resource for the towns. There's also the Natural River Protection Association, which is very active, and they are protecting the river. I believe they're headquartered in Groton, perhaps.
Natural River Watershed Association.
Watershed Association, I never get that one right. Got some great people there. And I'm sure there's some other organizations around that the towns could use in the eventuality that they're going to be taking over a portion of Devens. They can use these resources.
Point.
Okay, good comment. Thank you. So I think we seem to be on the cusp of some major developments going forward. Both the RFP from this committee and the product of the housing working group that will be coming our way. So that's all good stuff to look forward to.
Mr. Chair,
Neil?
I see Kristen Cullen from Commonwealth Fusion Systems is online with us and joined us. Welcome, Kristen. Thanks for joining. I just wanted to point out too that the Devens Fundamentals Group, that's part of that housing working group subcommittee, is also corresponding with a representative of the Devens businesses as well too. That's through Melissa Federoff, the Neshoba Valley Chamber of Commerce director. So just wanted Kristen to, as a local business on Devens, to understand that they are being included in those discussions as well.
So Christian, we're very happy that you're here. Have you interacted with Ryan McDivitt at all from Bristol Myers?
I don't think I have.
Okay. This is the exception, but since appointed as an alternate to this committee, he has been regularly attending. So we're glad you're here. Do you have anything you'd like to contribute to this meeting?
I don't have anything today, thank you.
Okay, you're always welcome, of course. Any other business? Any other agenda items for next time?
So for agenda items, it'll be the same as far as under the old business, and then the new business will be question 11, as it stands as today, right?
Then the RFP, where do you want to put that?
Well, we got
Right.
time.
Oh, yeah,
we got
it's
time,
there.
so
It's there. Yeah,
just,
okay. Yeah.
start prepping it
And we can leave,
tomorrow.
and then and perhaps just take, instead of invitation to Mass Development, just put Mass Development CEO update in the event that they do communicate with us before the next meeting. Okay, I'll accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Brian, is there a second? Okay, Brian as well. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. Without objection, the motion carries unanimously. We are adjourned.